let me let you in on a small secret. Okay, so even though you haven't studied Spanish before or you haven't really been practicing for a while, you already know plenty of words in the language. Don't you believe me? Right now, I am going to give you a small list of words and it is up to you to tell me what they mean. Are you ready? Let's go. Internacional. Automóvil. Posponer. Biología. Easy peasy, right? How many did you get? How come is it so easy? Well, that is because both English and Spanish share a lot of prefixes and suffixes. And believe me, getting familiar with those can save you so much time into learning new vocabulary. Hi, I am Katya and today I am going to teach you some of the most useful prefixes and suffixes in Spanish. And believe me, once you get your way around those, it will be so much easy to accelerate your Spanish learning process. But before, let's begin with what exactly are prefixes and suffixes. Okay, so first of all, prefixes are a group of letters that come before a word and they can change the meaning of that word. So for instance, let's take agree. Now let's add this at the beginning. So disagree. That means not to agree. Now, suffixes, on the other hand, are a group of letters that come after the word. So let's take happy, for example, and let's add ness at the very end. So happiness. That word refers to the state of being happy. Okay, now that we know what prefixes and suffixes are, why are they so important in both languages? Well, as you may know, English and Spanish have their roots in Latin language, and Latin used to be the language spoken by the ancient Romans. And the ancient Romans loved to have lots and lots of prefixes and suffixes to add new words into the vocabulary or add new meaning. But not only do we have Latin roots, we also have the influence of French, Arabic, indigenous languages, and also English has Germanic roots. So of course our vocabulary is so rich and the use of prefixes and suffixes is pretty big. Okay, now that we understand a little bit more about the origins and the importance of prefixes and suffixes, let's get more into detail about the Spanish words with them. Okay, so let's begin with prefixes. Let's say we have the prefix ex. Ex often means former or out of. So let's take the word exnovio. That means ex-boyfriend. So that refers to a person that used to be a boyfriend but no longer is. Easy, right? Well, now let's take a look at inter. Inter means between or among. So internacional, international. That is something that is between nations. Now let's go with ante. Ante often means before or prior. So antesala, anteroom. And that means a room that is before the main room. Now let's take another one that's kind of similar. Pre. Pre also means before or in advance. So preparar. If you guessed it has something to do with prepare, you're right. And it means to do something beforehand. Okay, now let's take a look at mono. Mono means one or single. So monociclo means unicycle, and that is a cycle that has only one wheel. So now that we know about prefixes, let's find out about suffixes. And let's begin with that. Do you remember happiness? We add ness to happy, right? So the same thing applies to that. That often refers to quality or state. So felicidad is the state of being feliz, of being happy. Now let's go with ble. This generally means capable of or to be able to be. So legible means readable, and that means something that is capable of being read. Now let's take a look at ción. Ción has an English equivalent, and that is shun. So información means information. Okay, so now let's take a look at logo. Logo often refers to a person who studies a certain subject. So, biólogo means biologist, and that refers to a person who studies biology. And the last one, let's take a look at ismo. So, ismo often refers to a certain doctrine, a belief, or a practice. So, let's take feminismo. That stands for feminism, and that is the advocacy for women's rights and equality. Okay, so now that we know a lot about prefixes and suffixes, we can understand how they can help us into enriching our vocabulary. But lastly, as one final piece of information, and to prove you that this can help us understand Spanish way better, I will give you one special word that is not necessarily the easiest one to translate. And the word is antepenúltimo. Antepenúltimo. Sorry if it sounds like a tongue twister, but I promise you it's not. Okay, so do you remember ante? So ante, before, penúltimo. Penúltimo, second to last. So before, second to last. Third to last. Easy peasy, right? Like the antepenultimate chapter of the book or the antepenultimate contestant of a race. Okay? So if you really find this interesting and it does make sense, try using what you learned today into your daily conversations or your written exercises. Remember, the more you use them, the more it sticks to your brain.